Good evening, faculty, parents, relatives, in the Amity class of 2023. Before I begin my speech, I'd like to preface my stories by telling you that I'm not a pessimist. Close to every syllable that follows this brief note might prove the contrary, but I want you to know that I, Michael Joseph Perrone, am not a pessimistic person. I'm simply a graduating senior who will be recognizing a few rather unlucky moments in my time here at Amity. But there's a point to it all, so please bear with me. All right? Cool. A few weeks ago, I received an email from Mr. Davis alerting me that I had been nominated to give a speech to you all regarding extracurricular achievements. Surprised at the honor, I quickly made a mental list of the clubs and activities I had participated in, and the impact, and then began to brainstorm different ways to address the impact each of these experiences had on these past 4 years at Amity. In brainstorming all the wonderful accomplishments my peers and I found in our clubs, a shocking revelation came. Every one of these paths toward success opened in some way or another with personal failure. We've all experienced failure in some form or another, and for the most part, drowning these disappointing feats with a myriad of accomplishments is the right thing to do. Who would want to flaunt their defeats when so many other positive things have happened? I, however, believe that by acknowledging failure, you can grow as a person and eventually find happiness. And I'm gonna be completely honest, in hindsight, my failures are kind of funny. So, instead of discussing the positive outcomes my extracurricular activities have brought, I'm going to highlight the negative. What better place to start this thread of misfortune than with my freshman year? Picture this. A 5'3" Michael, braces on his teeth, unkempt peach fuzz slowly beginning to grow on his upper lip, couldn't wait to spread his proverbial wings and show the world what he was capable of. Despite a crippling fear of rejection, I was sure to try new things and make myself known among the fine people at this new institution I was a part of. And the first step toward this goal was to be cast in the spring musical. Amity Creative Theater at the time seemed like less of a club and more of a myth. I was always told about these wildly extravagant performances the school put on and constantly heard neighbors sing their praises. So naturally, it was one of the few clubs I actually wanted to join during my first year. I auditioned for the show, The Drowsy Chaperone, and thought I had nailed it. Much to my surprise, they even decided to give me a callback for a lead role. That's never happened to a freshman, I thought to myself. I was sure I was going to get in and prove to the world that I was born to perform. But nope, I got cut. No part for me, nothing. Heartbroken, I accepted my fate and moved on. Flash forward a year. Now, slightly taller, retainer wearing, and just recently shaved Michael decides to once again try something new and explore his newfound love of writing by signing up for the Amity Trident. High school newspapers, in my mind up to that point, seemed to be pieces of journalism so underread that it would be a tremendous waste of time for writers, editors, and publishers to even try and make something worthwhile. So, when I learned that Trident was an actual newspaper that people in Amity read, I thought, why not give it a try? I was put on the email list and decided to write a news article about AP exams. Unaware that news pieces had to actually cover the topic at hand, I tried to spice my article up a little with a ridiculous opening paragraph that referenced Mark Zuckerberg, Socrates, and Apocalypse Now, all within the span of 2 sentences. I'm not kidding. That intro took up about 70% of my paper, and I used the remaining 30% for actual journalism surrounding my topic. Not one word of my article was printed. Nada. Nothing. Baffled by the artistic censorship, I accepted my fate and, once again, moved on. Oh boy. Jump ahead yet another year. At this time, 5'9", retainerless, and shaving veteran Michael, in a suave move to try and impress a girl, decides to join the cross-country team. I hadn't run in forever, but figured it would be a good way to spend time with a lady whom I was interested in, and I would get some good exercise in the process. It didn't matter that I had close to no experience in sports as a whole, and could run a mile in 8 minutes if I really pushed myself to my limits. This is gonna be my year, I thought to myself. I'm gonna impress this girl, I'm gonna get fit, and I'm gonna have a great time. Everything's coming up, Michael! Not even a week into the season, I twisted my ankle, rendering me motionless for close to a month. Then, a day or two after I was fully healed, I went to a Foo Fighters concert, where I contracted COVID, confining me to my bedroom for 2 weeks and forcing me to go through a tedious return-to-play system before I could rejoin the team. Then, on my first run back out since COVID and the injured ankle, by some miraculous twist of fate, no pun intended, I managed to wound my other ankle. This time, leaving me motionless for closer to 2 months. Oh yeah, and I didn't get the girl. Injured, rejected, and even more unhealthy than at the start of the season, I, for the 3rd time, accepted my fate and moved on. As I said before, all these stories are meant to yield some kind of lesson. I bet you're expecting it to be some sort of cheesy moral about just accepting fate and moving on because lingering in the past is a waste of time or something. If I were to end with a lesson like that, not only would I be lying to all of you, but I would also be reading arguably the most cliched speech ever conceived. So no, that's not the lesson. I never discussed what I did after I moved on from these misfortunes. I used the inevitable sting of complete and utter failure to push myself toward a different goal, and in doing so, I eventually found what really made me happy. I might have gotten rejected from the musical my freshman year, but recognized my flaws and eventually grew significantly as a performer. Not only that, but I also learned about different opportunities to get on stage other than in the musical, and in doing so, found myself auditioning for the Fall Play, the lesser-known productions ACT annually performs. I've loved doing the Fall Play over my time at Amity, and apart from being rewarding performances on their own, they were also my gateway into the spring musical that tore my heart into my freshman year. My first Trident piece might not have seen the light of day, but it was through that rejection that I decided to sit back and take note on what I had to improve on as a writer if I was going to get an article published someday. I decided to move on from the news section and eventually found my way to the opinions articles. Pieces that, while less conventional, allowed writers to flex their creativity in a way that wasn't over the top or confining. I've had an opinion article in nearly every Trident newspaper this past year, and crafting these pieces has been the highlight of my time at Amity. As for cross country, I might have twisted both ankles, gotten COVID, and been repudiated by a pretty girl, but at the end of the day, I learned sports, well, they're just not my thing, I guess. I mean, I still go on runs in my free time, though, so there's that. To stand here as a graduated high school senior and impart words of wisdom is wildly unfair. I know just as much about life as any other 17-year-old in the audience, arguably even less. To have me come up here and give a profound life lesson would be like having Carrot Top give a lecture to a bunch of students on mechanical physics. Odds are he's not going to have any idea of what he's talking about. I do, however, feel that these misfortunes have, in fact, taught me an undeniable lesson. We aren't defined by our failures, but rather how we use the sting brought on by such a deep wound to forge new, unexpected paths. You're allowed to be upset over an unfortunate event, but you shouldn't let said event ruin you forever. You should use those passionate feelings of rejection and sadness to create something different, but at the end of the day, self-fulfilling and brilliant in your own eyes. That, I believe, is going to be one of several keys to a well-lived life, and one we, as graduating seniors, should hold on to in the years to come. And so, I stand before you all today, a man of pure contradiction. I've experienced more failure than I ever thought possible at Amity, and yet I wouldn't change a single thing. Thank you, and remember, stay gold.